I'm Laura Rubinstein here with the awesome and wonderful Rhoberta Shaler. Hi, Rhoberta, how are you?
I am well, and how is the amazing Laura Rubinstein today?
We are thriving, so it's good. We're alive and
Thriving is
thriving.
good. Thriving is good. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a beautiful day here in San Diego. We're suffering from a beautiful, perfect, sunny day. Yeah. I hope that everybody else is having the same kind of experience, whether it's sunny on the inside or the outside. Because today we're going to talk about something that kind of becoming a lost art for many people. And we're going to make some connections about letter writing that you might not have thought about. So, what have you got in store for us today?
Well, the art of letter writing, I think, became a dying art once the internet came about. Maybe even before. I mean, like, when was the last time you got a letter in the mail, right? And so many people, we know that the best use of email is not necessarily to write these long drawn out letters. However, I would have to say that there are so many tools out there that can allow us to focus on the message instead of the modality. So of like the writing. But I love writing, and it's been a long time since well, I shouldn't say that. I sent you a letter in the mail, or a card in the mail.
You did.
And I did. I hope you got it. Maybe you didn't. It was a sympathy card.
I didn't. No.
Then I might not have your right address. This is terrible because it's a beautiful card. Okay. So let's talk about the art of letter writing. And
yeah, one of the things about the art of letter writing is make sure that it gets to the person. Because
yeah, and I have a motto, and it's usually I use it online, but it applies offline, which is just because you sent it doesn't mean it was received. So it's always good to check in. So I'm checking it.
Yeah.
I had a feeling you might not have gotten it. That's very strange. We will check into that for sure and resend to the right place. But in the meantime, let's talk about what is this art of letter writing. Do people even understand what we're talking about? Let's define it. How do you define letter writing?
Well, it's kind of a moot point at this moment, because I'm sure that there are a lot of millennials who would listen to this and say, well, I write letters all the time. And they're thinking of email. And in fact, that is a form of letter writing. I mean, you can write love letters. You can write letters of appreciation. You can write letters full of your travelogue or whatever in an email. But it's the thought, I think, that we're discussing today more than anything is what is that we want to convey, and why would we use something that we're particularly calling letter writing, right? Now I'm hearing a lot of noise on the
I am too.
On the screen here, so let me see if it's anything I can take charge of. It may be.
Yes, and while you're doing that, I wanted to say that, you mentioned a couple of categories of letter writing: appreciation, travel, journal type, or sharing an experience, and then expressions of love and admiration and adoration, perhaps. One of the more popular books that a lot of book groups have been reading in the last couple of years has been the John Adams book. And talk about letter writing. John Adams and Abigail Adams had like a love affair through letter writing. It's really an enrichment tool if we use it that way.
Oh, absolutely. And somehow poetry written, or poetic prose written on a computer, just doesn't land the same way as it does when it comes with a stamp on it in your mailbox.
I would agree. There's something special that in the arriving, in the opening, in the reading, in the touching, and being able to save it. It's almost a piece of artwork in that sense, and that's the art of letter writing.
Yeah, for sure. I have boxes of letters and cards and things. In fact, right here on my desk, I have a drawer that I put cards in that I received that people have written something in, not just the card itself, but if someone's written a note to me. And some days when I'm wanting to feel connected or, feeling a little isolated, I'll just pull them out and read them.
Mm.
I don't do that with emails. How about you?
Not usually. I don't go back to too many emails, but I wouldn't say that that's how email's being used these days for the most part. I mean, I'm sure some people do, but yeah. And if somebody is using it, yeah, keep a folder of it and you could do it electronically. It sounds like a good idea. I've just never done it.
Yeah, well, it very seldom happens. I think you're right, because the whole idea is to do things quickly, to do them immediately, to express whatever it is and get the information back. I mean, we've all had the experience of sitting at the computer, sending out an email, and then checking every 30 seconds to see if they've written back yet. You know better than to do that with a letter. You send it off, and there's a leisure attached to it. Now, that's different in this day and age. Before, it was just a long time attached to it. But now it's a thing of leisure and pleasure. Like, oh, that person will be surprised when they get it because it's so different than anything else they're currently dealing with every day. So it has a special note to it. It has a chosen feeling to it. It wasn't the most expedient thing to do. It was definitely done in consciousness. And
Yeah,
that's
so
beautiful.
it is beautiful, and I think it's extra special nowadays to receive a handwritten note or a letter or a card in the mail that somebody took the time, especially if it's more than just, whatever a birthday card is, love so and so. But if there's actually a written note, something that someone took the time to think about you, and it's an extra special thing these days because what percentage of our mail is personal? Like almost zero, right? And
That's right.
and so it's a great way to stand out. And I often say in business that, if you want to stand out, you've got to send something in the mail. Send a note, send a card, acknowledge them through that mail. And I think people today, it really stands out. You remember it because you get so few of them. When I can remember the last 3 things that somebody sent me in the mail personally. It was like, wow, that they took the extra time for that. And
So here we are. We're starting a movement today.
we are.
The return to letter writing. I love to go to the shop and buy special cards for my sweetheart. I like to read every single one that's there and choose the best one that expresses what I'm feeling. But we also see that a lot of card shops are disappearing to little departments in large stores, and we don't have that same thing. And I was looking this morning fondly at my sealing wax and my stamps to go in it, because that's something I always used to do, is seal my letters with wax and just have that artistic moment, this event. It became an event.
Yep. There's the savoring aspect of it too, and really taking time for someone else and for yourself to nurture what's in your heart. So I love that we're creating this movement. And I've actually secretly, well, not so secretly, but I've actually said that before, that I believe that the letter writing movement, the sending heartfelt messages movement, is available, and needs to be moved. And in 2006, I joined Send Out Cards. And I did that because when well, first of all, what is Send Out Cards? Send Out Cards is a way to send a greeting card in the mail, but execute it from your computer. So you go online, you pick a card, it can have a message in it. You can write your own additional message in it. You can have a blank card. You can customize it with your own images, photos, your own graphics, whatever you want. But what's done for you is the signing, the sealing, the addressing, the stamping, and the posting. It's done for you. It takes out that element, kind of the impersonal element anyway, that the necessary administrative part of it, and it lets you spend time on the message and the creation of this card. So it does become an art in and of itself, and I loved it.
Oh, lost your audio. Any moment now, we're going to hear why she loved it. No, you're not. No, we can't hear you now. Okay, she's going to sign out and come back in, it looks like. You're going to refresh the page sometimes.
It's
That
because of
works too. But it is important for us to just stop for a few minutes and think about, what does it actually mean to us to receive a personal piece of mail that someone has thought about. They've chosen it. They've chosen to sit down and write it. They've chosen the words carefully, because we do tend to do that when we have a pen in our hand. And it's something that's a gift that only you can give. So that's the joy of it too, right, Laura?
Right, if you can hear me now.
We can hear you now.
Yay! And the cool thing is, I just got to tell all my followers again that we're on. But yes, it's a joy. It's a way of enriching your life and enriching your relationships. And that is why I'm so excited about the art of letter writing and include it in my day, and have made a way to combine the art of letter writing, the snail mail, with the technological world, and bring the worlds together and be able to save this time and bring more enhancement to relationships. And in business too, I just want to make a point. You know, a lot of business in my world is built on relationships. Bottom line, that's it. If you're a service provider of any kind, if you have a business or you want to do business with people, that's the key word, people. And building those relationships can lead to so much more business and make it easier. And I call what I do in business a lot of times with letter writing appreciation marketing. So letting clients know that you appreciate them, that you're thinking of them. Maybe you just wrote a book and you want to send the book to them. Maybe you just saw an article and you want to copy it for them and mail it to them, so they have a tangible thing. You can do that on email too, of course. Maybe you're just thinking about something about them, and you want to send a thank you letter, a birthday card, a holiday card, a sympathy card. You know, there's so many places you can let people know they're important. And sometimes, you know, people have come back to me. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but wow, I just got your card in the mail, Laura, and it came at the exact perfect time. You know, I just needed that little boost. And, you know, that's the serendipity of it. And another thing that bonds you to the people you're working with.
Yeah, it's so important. And when you just take a moment, let's all just take a moment and realize that this is within our power to actually touch someone. It's the next best thing to taking yourself to their house, right? Like, you've touched it, you've written on it, you've done everything, and then you send it off. And there is a vibration that goes with that, if that's not too woo-woo to say, that yeah, I mean, I've touched this, I've worked with it, it has my energy in it, and I send it off to you, and that helps with the receptiveness of the message. Recently, I've been on a few talk shows, and someone asked me, what do you think about breaking up by text? So this would be like an amazing contrast to the exact opposite of breaking up by text. I don't think anything could be more heartless, cruel, and cowardly than breaking up by text. But what could be more beautiful than to have someone just sit down and say, and in their own handwriting, I was thinking of you today, and I remember this event that we did together, and I was just wanting you to know that I experienced that. So it's a beautiful thing to give to someone. It's like a little piece of your time and your thought and your energy. And sometimes we have to write business letters, and I think we should talk about that too, because that's also becoming a lost art. that you actually write a letter that acknowledges there's a human being on the other end of the line. I teach negotiation for the University of Texas in the MBA program, and my students were doing an online negotiation, and they had a criteria sheet for how to mark each other. And the first thing was establish rapport.
Mm.
And many of them were very good at that, but there were a few who just jumped right in. Well, I want to talk to you about this. And, you know, it's very important to establish rapport with someone. And you can do that when you're writing a letter. And you can also do it, of course, in an email by taking the time to write something personal at the beginning. That, you know, not terribly personal if it's a business letter, but at least acknowledging there's a human on the other end receiving it,
Yes.
as opposed to jumping into the facts.
Exactly. And it's a way of reaching out a hand, making that extra gesture to build that rapport. I love that. Never really thought about business letters as building rapport, but it could be a first or a second or third introduction in marketing a business. So I love how you talk about negotiating. When I think about marketing, it's about building a relationship, and there's various ways you do that. You know, when you're in person, the first thing you do is you reach out your hand, you offer that as a handshake, right? It's like, I acknowledge you. And of course, eye contact with that. So what's the handshake when you don't get to be in person with them? It could be that letter. It could be that connection on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. That's what I call the handshake on social media. And then so you take and I want to say don't be weird, okay? You know, and what I say, I teach that a lot, and people laugh, and it's like, but really, don't be weird. You wouldn't ask someone to marry them on the first date. That's a little weird. It happens, but it's weird. And in general, it's not a common practice that we recommend. You have to build that relationship if you want a lasting one anyway, right? So the handshake is the first place. And then it's a get to know you, and it's a it's a giving. In networking, my first rule of networking, by the way, is give first, give always, right? Because, you know, people, if you're only there to take, nobody's interested in a relationship where somebody just takes. There's always a back and forth. And I'm all about generosity in marketing, you know, in building relationships. It's like, is there something I can give you? I give a lot of stuff away. You can go to my website and see a bunch of stuff, transformtoday.com. Oh, by the way, let's talk about our giveaways, right? Transformtoday.com is mine, and forrelationshiphelp.com is Dr. Rhoberta Shaler's, and we have tons of stuff to give you, tons. We're very generous in that, and that's that, you know, okay, we've shaken your hand. We want you to get to know us. And then over time, we'll get to know you, and we'll do things like the handshaking, like the business letter. I actually haven't sent a business snail mail letter out in a long, long time, but that's a good idea. And some people talk about, and you've been at workshops with me, and I've done this with clients and advise them, lumpy mail. Lumpy.
Like to get gifts, you know, even if it's silly, crazy, marketing, promotional, whatever it is. Something that says, open me, I've got something special in it. That's lumpy mail.
It's a keychain or a squeeze ball or a brownies or a gift card, right? It's something that is more than a piece of paper. It gets people's attention, it draws them to you, and it builds that relationship. And then what happens? Business happens. Bingo. Thank you, Julie. So it's great.
So, you know, I was working with somebody yesterday who had a letter to write. Actually, they were going to write it in an email, but it was a letter to write that the other person was giving them the silent treatment. And this was a pattern in their relationship. The person would not speak to them for a couple of days at a time. And they wanted to break the silence. So I suggested that they perhaps write a letter, but not the kind that they were used to considering. Because when people give you the silent treatment, Don't beg them to talk to you. People giving you the silent treatment don't have A, the courage to talk about whatever's going on, or B, the skills to talk about whatever's going on, or C, the willingness to do it. So don't be begging them to talk to you. But in this case, you know, helping that person say that she was completely within her right as an assertive human being to write what she was feeling, what she was thinking, what she needed, what she wanted, as long as she didn't say anything about the other person, as long as she never used the word you. Now, I teach that in my book, Kaizen for Couples. So if you want to learn about that, just go to Kaizen, Kaizen for couples. But being able to be clear that you have the right to say what you feel, think, need, and want at any time, as long as you don't impute motive or make assumptions or presumptions about other people. You're just talking about you. It's great. So that was a way that she could change her letter writing to just say, you know, I'm feeling lonely. I'd like to improve my skills, and I'd like to be able to become a more patient person. You know, she could say things about herself rather than, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again, and please come back and talk to me. You know, very disempowered to empowered. So when you actually take the time to stop and write a letter, you actually stop time a little bit and stop this react. You're more likely to respond.
I love
Which is why I suggest that if you're going to respond by email, write it in Notepad first if it has any emotional content. Leave it there for at least 6 hours. Come back and read it again and see if you really want to send it.
I have done that, and it is wise and sage advice. It's really interesting because I've done it recently where I've written it out in my Evernote, and you know, first of all, I wrote it out in a reaction mode. So I just got it all out. Then I said, okay, well, how can I say this not so reactionary? And like you're saying, taking responsibility for what I want and need and really feel. And then I left it for another bit, and I came and I thought about the other person's. As I calmed down the other person's point of view, I'm like, oh, well, if I say this, it's not addressing this that she's saying. So it really helps to give the time and space to it and respond, because you know, you don't want to regret things you say, and you really want the most positive outcome. So thanks, and welcome some of our new listeners here
Yes,
today.
please know, as I put in the chat, we're absolutely happy to answer any questions or to read your comments. If you put them in the chat window, we'll definitely do that. I think that process that you went through, Laura, is a really wise one, because we've all had those moments when we read something, and remember, we read it, but it doesn't mean they said it.
That's right. Wow, that's right.
So we
doesn't mean they said it. I like that.
And we're reacting to something, and the great idea, write out your response in Notepad, you know, any old where that is not in the replies box, and get it off your chest, and then take some time to cool down, then come back and reread what the email you're responding to, and then see how you feel about what you've written. And you'll probably find you'd like to make some major changes. And then if you're wise, as Laura was suggesting, after you've done that, you leave it sit for a bit and you come back and say, how will this land? Okay, this is what I want to say, but how might it land? How do I need to tweak it so that it lands where I want it to land? And this takes us back to a conversation we had many blabs ago, the difference between communicating and communication. Sending it out there is a communication. You know, it's like a radio broadcast or whatever. But communicating only takes place when you know the other person received the message you intended to send.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't stop our process, we're likely to go off guns blazing and be really, really sorry in a day or two. I've seen people torch work relationships, love relationships, all kinds of relationships with their righteous indignation in the moment, sending some text or some email flying off, and the other person is just, as they say in Britain, gobsmacked. Like, where did that come from? And they now they're either completely dismayed with the person or they're furious. And now it's on, you know. So letter writing is an art. I think it's really advisedly spoken when we say the art of letter writing, because it's not responding, it's deciding how and when to communicate and in what way, and making it appropriate to your message. Like, you wouldn't send a, you know, there used to be a song called The Letter Edged in Black, because you get black stationery with black around the edge when you wanted to write a note of sympathy. Well, you wouldn't write a love letter on a letter edged in black stationery, right? Now, you wouldn't send a Valentine card on Easter. So when you're choosing what to write and how to write, what to write with, and what you're writing on, you are also sending a message. And one of those messages that you send is consciousness. I was awake and aware. I didn't just grab the nearest piece of paper and get something off. I actually did this intentionally and consciously. And that's a beautiful aspect of letter writing too.
Yeah, and not too long ago, I did my notepad thing, and then I wrote it out on hand in a card and sent it to the person, because I did want to be hugely conscious, and I didn't want to go back and forth with a reactionary kind of situation in email. So yeah, for me, sending a handwritten note was a way to get to that conscious place, because once, you know, you're typing it, you're all reactionary, you rewrite it, then you're actually handwriting it. It's like, okay, then reread it, you know. Yeah. Quite the process. But you know what? This is a personal development process. And if you're committed to your own evolution, to having a fulfilling life, to having great relationships, you do that work. Bottom line.
That's right. And if you don't, you go off like a, you know, what do you call those things? A Roman candle. Every time something's lit, it looks like a match to you. Like, oh, well, I'm not going to stand for that. And away you go. But, you know, we have the opportunity of responding, and we have the opportunity of choice. And let's always remember that. That's in our ballpark. No matter what anybody else does, you are always, and I am always, in charge of my thoughts, my feelings, my wants, and my needs.
And nobody else. And doing that exercise of writing to another person and only using the word I is a huge exercise and a personal growth process.
Yeah,
it's so wicked fast how that you word comes out. It's like, what? And you don't even notice it sometimes. It's like, oh,
yeah, it's there. Yeah, it is. And that, you know, that's why when I wrote in Kaizen for Couples, those 2 chapters on doing this, I call it the personal weather report. You know, when I teach the people that I work with all about it, they'll say, oh, well, that sounds really easy, or simple rather. And I'll say, yeah, let's find out how easy it is. Not so easy.
Difference between easy and simple, for sure.
Yeah, because it sounds so sure. You know, I can say what I think, feel, need, and want. But if I can't say you know, now what? If it's not your fault, if it's not something you said, if I'm not responding to your bad words or whatever, how do I take full responsibility? Because I'm not responsible for the other person. So I have to be completely responsible within myself and make sure that it's accurate. And it isn't easy to do that. It sounds simple, but it isn't easy. So I certainly invite people to practice that. We're getting a nice room full of people here. Does anybody have a question before our time is up?
And I wanted to mention to practice this art of letter writing, I want to give everybody a gift because, like I mentioned earlier, the send out card system is a great way to focus on the message. So if you go to transformtodaycards.com, transformtodaycards.com, you can send a free written card out on me. I will pay your postage. I'll pay for the card. All you have to do is sign up for a free account, and you can send out a letter to someone you care about. You know, say thank you to somebody, wish somebody a happy birthday, let them know you're thinking about them and that they make a difference in your life. And let's grow this movement. I'm committed to that, and I'm helping you. TransformTodayCards.com, free. Send a card out on me. And if you don't know what to say, you're having trouble, go to Rhoberta's site, forrelationshiphelp.com. Get your mind together. Read her book, Kaizen for Couples. You'll know exactly what to say in those cards. We got it here for you. We got the problem solved. We want to give to you the best stuff. I mean, Rhoberta, you have some incredible blog posts that will walk people through getting through difficult people, difficult times.
Yeah, I just want to add my little freebie too. If you're with a chronically difficult person, somebody you find difficulty with all the time, and other people find difficulty with them too, you have to learn to be strategic. And I call those people hijackals. And if you're wondering if it is a chronically difficult person you're with, go to hijackals.com and you can get my free ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. And you need to know that, because if it's just a momentarily difficult person, so be it. But if it is a chronically difficult person, you need strategies that you probably haven't even thought of. And I invite you to do that, because there's no need to feel ill-equipped in the face of a hijackal.
Amen.
So, yeah. There's so much that we can talk about, and we've hit on so many things during our times together. Next week, we are going to talk about a specialty of mine that I've written a couple books about, and that is the age-old problem of dealing with passive-aggressive behavior. So if by any chance you are thinking about that, or you think someone is exhibiting passive-aggressive behavior, or you have been told you are, go to passiveaggressivechecklist.com before next week's show. It's a free online checklist. Take it with that person in mind, and you'll soon find out if that's true. And then when you come and join the Blab in 2 weeks with us here, you'll have your questions to ask, and that would be great. Really good for you to be prepared in that way. Because all of these things are special, you know, that you have to understand them. It's not just a throwaway label, you know, oh, it's really being passive aggressive. Do you really know where that is? Do you know what it feels like? Do you know what it sounds like? Or are you just trying to beat somebody up with words?
In fact, I had someone near and dear to me take that test after they threw around that word. I'm getting an echo. Yeah. So after they threw around the label passive aggressive, oh, you know, so and so's passive aggressive. I go, are you sure? Take this test. And she's like, oh, no, he didn't do that. Oh, he didn't do that. No, he doesn't do that. Oh, yeah, but he did that. But everything was no, except for maybe one thing. I says, well, maybe.
Yeah, so there was a moment of a behavior, but the person's behavior pattern is not passive aggressive. But it's really important. And when you take that test, you'll learn, you know, what is and what isn't passive aggressive, just by the way that I put the questions together. And it's a two-part thing. So if you take the first one and you're on the road to understanding the person you're with is passive aggressive, it immediately pops you over to the second part so that you can learn even more about that.
Cool.
So there's free things, as Laura said, at transformtoday.com and at forrelationshiphelp.com and at hijackals.com. And then remember the free offer. Send a card on Laura.
All right, everyone.
Finding all that.
This has been great. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more passive-aggressive insights for you.
All right. Take good care. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Rhoberta. Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Abdul. Thanks, Deborah.